Michael Burry recently made his biggest short since forecasting the 2008 crisis and the massive drop in the S&P 500. With his renowned reputation, we're definitely paying attention to that. Not just to that, but also to the fact that the global economy is now undergoing some extremely bizarre and unheard of stuff. So to put this into context, just days ago, the price gap between copper traded in New York and London went absolutely insane. For over 2 decades, that spread was nearly flat. But on July 9th, it surged past $2,500 per ton, following the announcement of a 50% tariff on all copper imports into the United States. It's important to understand just how critical copper is. Copper is more than just a metal. It's a leading indicator of economic health. Because it's used in everything from housing and cars to electronics and power grids, rising copper demand usually signals real growth across industries. That's why traders call it Dr. Copper, almost like a metal with a PhD in economics. When copper prices surge, it often means the economy is heating up. But when that surge is artificial, like now, it raises deeper questions. Not only does the copper futures serve as predictor for economic activity, it can also show us correlation with stock market. This chart compares the year-over-year change in copper futures with the year-over-year performance of the S&P 500 index. Please do keep in mind the actual values shown as percentage year-over-year changes. It is only natural to see correlation again, especially during sharp rises or sharp declines during the years of 2003, 2008, 2009, and 2020. However, the correlation is more or less the same over the entire timeline. Again, in a horizon of few weeks or months, it is possible to get a sense of what the demand will be, and obviously, the effects of the stock market won't take long to show up. Now, the recent price jump probably isn't about some sudden demand spike or a supply shortage. It's more about the tariffs the US just rolled out. So less copper's going to flow in, and for the companies that rely on it, it just got more expensive to operate. Economic agents are obviously forward-looking, so producers that use copper are well aware of tariffs effects. That's why COMEX prices jumped right after the tariff news. Now, usually when copper goes up, it's demand-driven. More demand means more production, more profits, and stocks, especially in the S&P 500, tend to follow. However, this time, the current increase in price of copper could actually slow down production, meaning the opposite mechanism could initiate, and therefore S&P 500 could gradually drop. In this situation, the effect isn't that straightforward. However, a good indicator is provided to us by Michael Burry. While there are plenty of indicators used to gauge the stock market or the economy, you've probably also come across the lipstick effect, a tool often referenced during periods of economic slowdown. The effect can be summed up like this. When financial pressure in economy builds, people may stop buying cars or electronics, but small luxuries such as lipsticks often continue to sell well. The reason why this matters is that Michael Burry recently liquidated his entire portfolio of put options and took a long position in a single company, Estée Lauder. Its stock has declined by over 80% in the past 4 years, yet Burry chose to concentrate his entire position in this one name. Estée Lauder is a global brand known for producing lipsticks and similar consumer beauty products. If we look at the stocks Michael Burry recently targeted with put options, one stands out immediately, and it is Nvidia. Over the past few years, Nvidia has been at the center of the AI and semiconductor boom. The company's stock surged dramatically, rising more than 1,400% over the course of last 5 years, driven mainly by soaring demand for GPUs and AI. It became one of the largest companies in the world by market cap, and just days ago, Nvidia became the first company in history to reach a $4 trillion market capitalization. That makes it more valuable than 97% of global economies, surpassing the GDP of even entire United Kingdom. These two stocks picks like Nvidia and Estée Lauder actually provide us with a good view of Burry's entire macro read of the current economic state. So while he's long a quiet, struggling consumer brand, he's simultaneously shorting Nvidia, Alibaba, JD.com, and other high-flying stocks which are tied mostly to tech and AI. That means Burry is not just bearish and also selective, focusing on stocks that will perform well during potential upcoming recession. Right now, he's backing a brand that's been left behind, but could benefit heavily from very real macro shifts. We feel safe assuming his recent actions are closely related to the current US trade policy with regard to tariffs and possible recession, because keep in mind the US GDP had a drop during the first quarter of 2025. If that drop was to continue even if in the second quarter of 2025, we'd be talking of recession happening. The last recession happened during the 2020 COVID era, and before that, during the 2008 massive financial crisis. To sum this up, you probably remember how Michael Burry forecasted a collapse of the housing bubble in 2008, and that was a very real signal provided through his short operations. This right now is more of a rotation call. However, those who are aware of the lipstick indicator for recessions, this might also be interpreted as potential warning for something big ahead. The anomalies certainly are there. Look at the copper price, for example. Thank you for watching. You're here to feel good and feel well. This is Glenneus.